I love that opening. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a stream by the Crossroads. This is our Song of Ice and Fire book read. We are in a Clash of Kings, chapter 18 through 20, which is Sansa something, Arya something, and Tyrion something. We will get to, like Sansa. Was it Sansa 2, Arya 5, Tyrion 5, I think. But we will be getting to that soon. Let's first introduce our panelists. And directly to my left, we have Miss Martin Muses. How are you?
Hello, I am doing well, ready to talk some Game of Thrones, or Song of Ice and Fire, rather.
it's Game of Thrones. That's fine. We can work with that. Glad to have you. And below is the great Jayne Theory. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm ready to talk some Clash of Kings.
Yes.
But let's first go to the chat. And first one here was Culture Casino with a $1.49 Doomacorn. Thank you, Culture Casino, and thank you for that great opening. Also, he is a channel member, and so is Tina Bojan saying good evening, friends. And we have a Matt G sighting, which is awesome. Hail, Matt G. Love seeing him in the chat. He's been around since the beginning. We have our panelists giving a wave and a flower, so that's always beautiful. I timed myself out before, so I could not see new comments, so I'm glad that actually updated finally. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Machiny 90s here. We have Shane Nolan. What's up? Hi, everybody. Who else is in the house? Free Folk of the Fandom. What is up, my friend? He was on last week, so please check out his channel. He's newer to Game of Thrones, like World, the Song of Ice and Fire world, but he really, when he knows a theory, he knows it really well. Tina's going to be lurking. She's letting us know, but well, she'll listen. So that's most important. And Lasso of Truth. Hello, everyone. Hello. All right. So we will be starting off with Sansa. We were supposed to actually get to Sansa 2 weeks ago. So I'm glad we're actually going to cover it. I don't know about you guys, but these chapters are pretty darn good.
They are.
They really are. I enjoy these chapters. The Sansa one is pretty good. The Tyrion one is fantastic. The Arya one's pretty good. So
it's kind of sad, but yeah.
Yeah. The Arya one. Yeah, it's definitely sad. It's definitely sad. That girl, man, if you really think about how much she goes through in this series.
Yeah.
Wow. That kid gets the crap kicked out of her. I know. What is she, 9, 8? Something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Insane. Like to think, what's the actress? What, Maisie Williams was it? She was like 12 or 13 when she started, and she looked like a baby. And now just imagine being, 4 years younger than that. That's crazy. That's crazy. But let's start out with Sansa. So as always, and let me know if I go robotic because I'm trying to share this. I don't know if that's going to work, but we get our summary. Usually we read a summary from Westeros.org. They have great summaries there, and then we discuss. So let's do this.
And their summaries are thorough.
Yes. Long.
Basically the chapter.
That means long. Yes. All right. So Sansa has found an anonymous note under her pillow telling her to come to the Godswood tonight if she wants to go home. She continues reading it over and over, wondering what it could mean. She has prayed so hard for a true knight to save her, but perhaps it's only one of Joffrey's cruel jokes or a clever snare to prove her disloyalty. She fears she will only find Sir Ilyn Payne waiting for her with ice. When her bedmaid enters unannounced to ask if she wants a bath, Sansa hurriedly hides the note. Worried the girl saw it, Sansa asks for a fire. Once the fire is lit, she orders the girl out and decides there was something sly in her eyes. Her servants are changed every fortnight to prevent her from befriending one, and Sansa is sure they all spy on her. Once alone, she burns the note. From her window, Sansa sees Sir Preston Greenfield pacing the drawbridge of Maegor's Holdfast. She is free to roam the whole Red Keep, but Sir Preston will still ask where she is going at this time of night. Unable to think of a lie, Sansa crawls into bed instead, but her thoughts keep her awake. She wishes there was someone to tell her what to do. She misses Septim and her best friend, Jayne Theory, and even her sister, Arya. She is sure is back.
Robotic.
Hearing shouting, Sansa looks out to running. Ah, crap. Okay. Thank you. Robotic it is. I will try to do that on my phone now, so please hold while I do Westeros.org. And it'll probably sound robotic no matter what. So
That's always odd how that works. Now you found fun.
Yeah, it's when I'm on a different tab. I've noticed that's what happens, but it happens when I read from my phone too. So it's I have no clue, but we'll go with it.
That's wild.
Weird, right? Yeah, it's really weird. Hearing shouting, Sansa looks out to see armed men running to the wall, Sir Preston gone from the drawbridge. Wondering what she is doing, Sansa dresses quickly and hides her meat knife under her cloak. After darting across the undefended drawbridge, she passes men at arms, arming in the yard, and sees 3 Kingsguard helping Joffrey into his armor. Fortunately, Joffrey is busy calling for his weapon and does not see her. The sounds fade as Sansa rushes towards the Godswood, never daring to look back for fear of Joffrey. The Godswood is quiet, and there is a wild feel to even in the heart of the city, and Sansa can feel the old gods watching her. She prefers her mother's gods with their artwork, incense, rainbows, and rich fabrics and gems, but the Godswood has a certain power to it, especially by night. Fearing she is too late, Sansa is surprised by the voice of Dantos Hollard saying he feared she would not come. When he reaches for her, Sansa shrinks back and reaches for her knife. Dantos insists he only wants to help her as she helped him. Sansa asks if he is drunk, and Dantos admits he had a cup of wine to help his courage. Drawing her knife, Sansa asks who sent him. Dantos swears on his knight's honor that he came on his own, but Sansa recalls Joffrey's decree and says she prayed for a knight to save her, not a drunken old fool. Dantos accepts the rebuke. God, I can't speak. But says he hopes to find it himself to be a knight again because of her, adding that Sansa not only saved him from Joffrey, but also from himself. Dantos reminds her that Florian was both a fool and the greatest knight of all. He falls to his knees and asks to be her Florian. Still unsure, Sansa asks how he plans for her to escape. Danto explains that the hardest part will be getting her out of the castle. Then a ship could take her home. But he needs to find coin and make arrangements without raising suspicions, which will take time since he is also watched. When Sansa puts away her knife, Dantos rises and lamentates that he did nothing to save her father. He then declares that he is not a hero like Raymond Redwine or Barristan Salmi and has won no glory in war or tourney. But Sansa has reminded him what it is to be a knight. He pledges himself to her and vows to the old gods that he will send her home. Assured by his solemn oath, Sansa agrees to put herself in his hands. Then she asks if he will send another letter to let her know when, but he says that would be too dangerous. Instead, he instructs her to come to the Godswood as often as possible since nowhere else is safe. She agrees and promises to be brave, strong, patient above all. Dantos urges her to leave, and Sansa kisses him softly on the cheek and calls him my Florian, certain that the gods have heard her prayer. On the way back, giddily thinking about home and the songs about Florian and Jaquil, Sansa caroms into Sandor Clegane. The hound catches her before she can fall and asks if she wants to kill them both on the serpentine steps. When he asks what she is doing out so late, Sansa stutters that she was praying for her father and the king. The hound replies that he is not drunk enough to believe that story, adding that although she is nearly a woman, Sansa is still just a little bird singing songs they taught her. He mockingly asks her to sing him a song about knights and fair maids and asks if she likes knights. Sansa answers true knights, but the hound mocks her and reminds her he is not a knight at all. Reeling and almost falling, the hound curses that he had too much wine, then offers to take Sansa back to her chamber. He pushes her gently and follows her down the steps. Upon their return, they find Sir Boris Blunt guarding the drawbridge. Sansa flinches away, but the hound insists Blunt is not to be feared. When Sir Boris asks why she is not in her chambers, Sansa lies about the godswood sounds more convincing than before. The hound adds that she could not be expected to sleep with all the noise. Sir Boris explains that preparations for Tarek Lannister's wedding feast have convinced some wretches that they should feast too. He added that Joffrey led a soiree that sent the fools scurrying. Clegane states a brave boy, but Sansa wonders how brave Joffrey would be when faces her brother Robb. After crossing the drawbridge, Sansa asked why the hound lets people call him a dog but never a knight. He replies that he likes dogs better and explains that his grandfather was a kennel master at Casterly Rock who received lands and a tower house for saving Lord Tydos Lannister from a lion, losing a leg and 3 dogs in the process. He added that a dog will die for you and never lie to you, which is more than little birds can do. When he added that he never got his song, Sansa suggests a song about Florian and Jaquil. The hound dismisses it as a song about a fool and a see you next Tuesday, but instead insists he will have a song from her one day, whether she wants to or not. Sansa replies she will sing for him gladly, but Clegane retorts, pretty thing, and such a bad liar. A dog can smell a lie, you know. Look around you and take a good whiff. They're all liars here, and everyone better than you. The end.
Wow.
Dun, dun, dun.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you guys think?
Well, I was intrigued by the knight guy, or the so-called knight. And is he lying? I don't.
Dantos?
Yeah. Is he really a knight? I don't.
He was. Okay, so
Oh, he really was a knight. Okay.
did we go over this part? I thought we had to already.
I think so.
Yeah, we did.
Maybe.
I think we kind of glossed over it, but during Joffrey's name day celebration, he was a knight competing for something and he was drunk. And because of that, Joffrey was going to kill him. And Sansa made a lie saying, oh, it's bad luck to kill somebody on your name day. You're not supposed to do it. And actually, Sandor Clegane, the hound, backed her up on that lie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he says, instead of killing you, because of my sweet lady, I will make you a fool. So now he's like a court gesture. But instead of being killed, he's telling her like, yeah, you saved my life. I would have been killed. And I'm hoping that I could be the knight I should have already been.
Okay. Understood. Okay. I guess for some reason I remembered him as being a fool, and
Yes.
I missed that part. Okay. Well, so then, yes, but his sincerity, I guess, is also part of what I was like. It's like, does he really want to help her? Is he really moved?
Right.
Because wouldn't that be a huge risk to him?
Yes.
It would, but I kind of believe him because this is a guy. I mean, the fact that he was drunk at the tourney suggests that he really didn't take Joffrey that seriously.
Right.
Mhm.
Maybe he wasn't afraid of the Lannisters, the way other people were.
Right.
So he comes across maybe as an outsider or someone who is perhaps even just a bit more genuine than everyone else. And
He does say, I should have protected your father. I should have done
Right.
more for your father. So he must have been around at least for that.
Mm-hmm.
right. So maybe he is being honest with her, and maybe he's willing now to risk his life the way he should have before to help her escape.
Yes.
It would fit.
So for Lasso of Truth, yes, actually, Miss Martin Muses is a first-time reader of the books. So what we try to do in our Song of Ice and Fire book series, a lot of us have read the books once, twice. I think Stig is up to like 3 or 4. But what we try to do is not spoil, pretend like we're reading it for the first time. We can spoil anything in A Clash of Kings, but we try not to go past the chapter we're in. So that's what we're working on. So reading it, like you're saying, Jayne, I feel like he seems like he owes her something. Now, when I read it for the first time, I still thought, how is this drunken fool going to save her? Like, this is going to be a cluster, because I didn't think of him as taking Joffrey as not that, like, he wasn't worried about Joffrey. I took it that he's a drunkard that got drunk because he was scared to get in front of Joffrey. He even got more drunk, so, and I mean, he was kind of drunk right then. And he said, I drank a cup to steady myself, so he definitely likes to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. And an alcoholic would not be rational about it.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay. I thought it was pretty sad. This is one of the first Sansa chapters I've really felt sorry for her. I mean,
Yeah.
I really, really have. And it seems like she's really learned her lesson, if you will.
She's starting to, I believe. Shane wants you to know, and he's right about this. Dantos's family, he came from a very rich family. This is going back years. Like, so there was a time when the Mad King Aerys got kidnapped by his family and was saved by Sir Barristan Salmy, snuck in, killed a couple guards, saved the King Aerys, and they wiped out his family except for him. He is the only one that lived.
Maybe that's why he's an alcoholic.
Yeah, and that's why he is. Yeah, Shane, you know your shit, man. I love that. Excuse me, stuff. What's up, Jen?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like the beauty of this story is if you didn't read the history, you would never know that. So like this guy Dantos just seems like a drunkard, but he really had like as a little kid, his whole family was slaughtered. He was the only one left alive.
Wow. And
they were going to kill him too. And they like let him live, like the one left. So you almost think now that you know the backstory, is it he's finally getting the courage like this? I'm doing this, I am the last one of my family. I'm going to be the last one of my family. Let me go out doing something good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that does put a lot of perspective into it as well. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a couple other things I liked about this. I liked how she was praying for a true knight, and first she gets her fool, like in the stories. It's kind of funny that one of her favorite stories is, this Florian and Jacquin, and she gets her fool. It's almost like someone knows that she loves these, singing these songs and poems and stories from the old days. But who comes after him but the Hound, who I think is, even though he's not, I think he's one of the truest knights in the story.
Yeah.
He has some honor and
yep.
Oh gosh.
Well, the loyalty and the truth.
Yes.
Are things I think he was hinting at perhaps in his conversation with her.
Yep.
Whether she quite picked up on it, I don't know. But
right.
He was basically saying, I can be trusted.
He was trying to tell her.
No one else here can.
Yeah.
Like she, at first, real quick. Yes, it is the turtle's birthday, everybody. I think he's having a stream too. So if you guys can jump over there and say happy birthday to him, the turtle will be most grateful. I don't know, Parrothead, are you one of my mods? If someone's a mod and they could throw it in there. Let me see where it is. Hold on 1 second.
Sure, yeah, I'll do it.
All right, you got it. So Shellback TJC birthday started 48 minutes ago. Make sure you guys say hello for me too. Tell them I'm streaming right now, but happy birthday if you jump in over there and jump back.
Jump back.
Hey man, it's all about, you don't have to watch this live. You can watch it on replay. I love the turtle though. So yeah, like he is trying to tell her without even, I mean, he's almost saying it.
Yeah.
Like he's so close to just being, and there's parts where like later on we'll see that, but he's pretty much telling her, you can trust me. Like I want to be the one that protects you.
Mm-hmm.
And she won't fall for it.
Well,
Like-
she just doesn't know now. She questions everything. She wants someone to tell her what to do because she's never been in this situation.
Right.
And I think I agree with Miss Martin Muses. I think she's coming along. She's recognizing that people, especially here, can't be trusted. But now is the next phase where she has to determine who she will trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Amidst all these people. And that's going to be a huge challenge for her.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You know, I mean, I'm even shocked she took the chance. You know, when you're reading the beginning of this, I almost wish there was more of it, but I love how like 1 minute she's thinking about it and then she stops thinking about it. Then she says, is this a setup, you know, or is this my chance? Right. You know, will I get killed? Is Joffrey just playing another game with, like, she has been so abused that she doesn't know what to believe anymore. I do feel for her.
Yeah. And she's right to feel that way. She's not being paranoid.
Right.
And isn't she still like 11, 12?
Yeah, she's young.
She's very young.
She's barely 12 if she's 12.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for her to flower. They're waiting for her to have her, whatever you want to call it. But that's the main reason they haven't got married yet at this point, was because she hasn't had that yet.
She's not on the rag yet.
She's not on the rag yet. I'll let you say it.
You know what else was pretty cool though? She did grab her knife.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. She is a little fierce.
Little fighter in there, little wolf.
Maybe? You know what? I got to say, what I caught this time that I never caught before. So I'm reading when she's thinking of Septim Ordain and poor Jane Poole.
Mm-hmm.
Pour one out for Jane Poole. But then she starts thinking of Arya back at Winterfell, dancing and riding horses. And I never caught it before, but it must be that Sansa really believed she was taking dancing lessons when she was actually taking sword fighting lessons. Yeah. Because I never thought of it before. Because why would she ever think, you know, her sister Arya would be dancing?
Right.
And then I was like, holy crap. It's because she really thought when she was taking those dancing lessons, they were dancing lessons, not sword fighting lessons. And it was like one of those times you read something for the third time and it actually made me like laugh out loud. I'm like, holy crap. I don't believe I never saw that before.
Yeah.
Like from the, go ahead.
And it also shows what a little girl she is.
Yes. Yeah. And I was going to say how great of a writer George is to relate that this 12-year-old girl wouldn't even look into it far enough because it's her sister. She would just know she took dancing lessons. So she danced a lot in the last year. She must be back at Winterfell dancing and riding horses and having a good time. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Another thing that sort of stood out was the Godswood and her feeling upon approaching it.
Yep.
And her comparison between that and her mother's gods, which she preferred. Because I guess it's more pretty, more civilized.
Yeah.
But it's the old gods that she feels a certain power coming from.
Right.
And perhaps even it gave her subconsciously a certain strength. Yes.
I agree with that. It is cool how when she lived in the north with a real Godswood, with a weirwood tree in there, she always went to the sept. You know, her father built a sept for her mother when she came up from River Run, and it was a little chapel, but it had artwork and the seven and all this. And now that she is away from home in danger, who does she really look towards? And it's the old gods, the gods of her father. And I thought that was really cool.
Maybe a tie-in with some of that stuff with the children or the North people, you know, like.
Well, feeling her heritage maybe for once, you know?
That too, yeah. I guess, yeah.
And maybe she was being watched.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. When you just said that, Teresa, too. The old gods, I don't think they just look through weirwood trees. They look through heart. If a heart tree has a face on it, which I don't know if it does in the capital, I believe that they can use that heart tree to look through. Yes, it's mostly weirwood trees, but who's to say the children of the forest aren't connected to all of nature and being able to look through a heart tree if it's designated a heart tree? I
That's
wonder
kind of
that.
my thought. I think if they're connected through the trees and they're connected through the earth or the
Right.
planet, um, yeah, and you see that anytime they're in a god's wood, it seems like there is this supernatural um being there, or at least something there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
speaking to them, whispering to them, staring at them.
Right.
They always feel something supernatural always happens whenever they're in a god's wood.
Right. I mean, she even says it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a weirwood tree in the Red Keep, but yes, the godswood can see you anywhere. But it is a heart. There is a heart tree. So not every godswood has a weirwood, but every godswood has a heart tree. And it's usually like an old oak or an old ironwood or something like that that becomes like the heart of the godswood, the heart tree. It is an oak, Shane's saying. Shane, you're on point, bro. I
Wow.
love it. Shane's like
He
our
knows.
go-to checker. Yeah, back to like Clegane too. He's hammered and finally, like, I think it, him being drunk, he's letting out more information than he would when he was sober.
Mm-hmm.
He even like makes her walk, but does it gently. Like he's so like kind to her, even though he comes off like he's being rough with her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's the only one.
Yeah, well, he's just rough. He's rough around the edges. I don't think that he's capable or in his character to be gentle.
Right.
Even
Right.
if he wanted to be.
No, that's valid. I like that. And then what is it? Boris Blunts or Boris Blunt? Like the guy's very blunt, like I love
Yeah.
the name is perfect for him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. And like he like backs her lie, because he knows she's not a good liar. She's going to get caught out. So what does he do? Once again, backs her lie, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too he did earlier was make a joke to try to calm her down
Mm-hmm.
when they tripped or almost tripped on the steps.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
that's his way.
oh yeah, yeah. That's his way, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good chapter.
It's a good chapter, and I think it's a good introduction to this side of Clegane as well.
Yes. And it also shows you a side of Sansa where, yes, she's timid, but she still is brave enough to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
She's getting better.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Definitely like it. Anything else on this chapter, or we can move on to Arya?
No, I think that's good.
All right. We will go on now to Arya 5.
Alrighty. Arya 5. So, from high in a tree, Arya can see a fishing village with some smoking chimneys. It's the first sign of life since they fled the Holdfast. The Lannisters have burned or killed everything. The houses promise warmth and shelter, unless it is Sir Armory Lorch there. Arya watches for a long time trying to be sure, but it's too far to see for certain. Arya and the others waited until the next night to return to the burnt village. Hotpot and Lami were still afraid, but Lorch and his men were long gone. The Holdfast was strewn with corpses from both sides, and scavengers had been at them. One look was enough for Gendry, but Arya insisted they find Yoren, telling herself he could not be dead. They found his body next to 4 Lannister men-at-arms, and Arya wondered how many men it took to bring the Black Brother down. There were too many bodies to bury everyone, but Arya insisted Yoren must have a grave. And as they dug, part of her wanted to cry, and part of her wanted to kick Yoren. The only other survivors were Cutjack, Kurtz, and Tarbur, who had been on lookout in the tower house. They came under attack as well, but the stone tower was inflammable and inaccessible when the ladder pulled up, so Lorch's men left them. When Kurtz decided they would do better continuing north, Arya clung to the hope of still reaching Winterfell, but Kurtz took an arrow in the shoulder pulling up the tower house ladder, and despite Tarber treating it with mud and moss, the wound festered and killed him. Soon after, Tarber and Cutjack had taken the dead poacher's weapons and hunting horn when they abandoned them. Afterward, wanting no part of any roads, Arya and the others made their way up the muddy shore of the God's Eye, taking turns carrying Lami on a makeshift litter, since the spear wound in his calf is now so bad he cannot walk. From her tree, Arya sees that the air over the village is full of crows, but 30 yards from shore, 3 black swans glide serenely over the water, oblivious to the war. Part of Arya wants to be one of them, but the other part wants to eat one. She and the others have been living mostly on an awful tasting acorn paste Kurtz taught them to make, though Arya and Weasel, their new name for the crying girl, have also been eating bugs and worms. Arya even tried catching fish with her hands as Koss once did, but without success. Beneath Arya's tree, Hot Pie barks like a dog to signal her, an old poacher's trick Kurtz taught them. With the nimbleness of a water dancer, Arya returns to the ground to report her findings. Hot Pie opines that they should go to the village and ask for food, convinced they will not be killed if they yield. Gendry accuses him of sounding like Lami, who has talked of little else since they escaped from the Holdfast. Lami and Hot Pie insist Lorch would have left them alone if Yoren had yielded, but Gendry points out that knights and lordlings only take each other captive and do not care about the lower classes. Hot Pie and Lami start talking about searching for dead fish, cooking crows, and even hunting boars, which Arya knows they cannot do without boar spears, horses, and men, until Gendry proposes they steal food from the village after he scouts it out. Arya argues that they should go instead because she is stealthier, but Gendry only agrees that she can come with him. Hot Pie and Lami worry about being left for the wolves, and Lami whines that they should yield to whomever they find because he needs some potion for his wounded leg. Gendry reminds them that Lami has a spear for the wolves and promises to bring back any leg potion they find, then dons his bull's helm and walks off. During their walk, Gendry stops and says he thinks Lami is going to die. Arya is not surprised since she has felt Lami's warm skin and smelled the stink off his leg. She suggests finding a maester, but Gendry dismisses it as unlikely. He suggests they should abandon Lami, since Lami would do the same, and he is sick of Lami's talk of yielding, adding that Arya is the only one who's good for anything, even if she is a girl. Arya panics and insists that she's not a girl, but Gendry insists he's not stupid, and to prove her wrong, she would have to pull out her cock. Desperate to escape the subject, Arya brings up the gold cloaks at the inn and says Gendry is also hiding something. Gendry insists he does not know why they wanted him and turns the question back on Arya, asking why she thought they were after her. Realizing her pretense is done, Arya decides she must kill Gendry or trust him, and after pleading that Lami and Hot Pie cannot know, she admits she is Arya of House Stark. Gendry is so shocked by the revelation that Arya is a highborn lady that he becomes unsure how to act around her and begins calling her Milady and begging her pardon for talking about cocks and for pissing in front of her. Unsure of if he is mocking her, Arya orders him to stop it, since even Hot Pie will notice if he starts calling her that. When Gendry responds by calling her Milady again, Arya slams into his chest and he falls down, laughing. Then she gives him a kick in the side, which only makes him laugh harder, and sets off for the village, leaving Gendry to hurry after. As they approach the village, they smell rotting fish. Gendry decides to circle around to the west while Arya continues up the shore, slipping from bush to bush and stopping every few yards to listen. The smell gets worse as she gets closer, and she begins to hear horses and men. Squirming through a gap in a bramble thicket on the edge of the village, Arya discovers a long gibbet full of corpses so decayed they hardly look like people. Arya forces herself to look at each one in turn, telling herself she is hard as stone. Beyond the gibbet, 2 spearmen guard the door of the slate-roofed warehouse by the water. Arya cannot make out the 2 limp banners nearby, but she knows the dead men must mean Lannisters. The two guards turn toward a shout from a third man who appears shoving along a prisoner Arya recognizes as Gendry by his bull helm. One of the guards snatches Gendry's helm, and after beating him around a little, they shove him through the heavy doors of the storehouse. From inside, Arya hears sobbing and a loud shriek of pain. Then the wind flutters the banners as she makes out Lannister lion and 3 black dogs on a yellow field that she feels she should remember. Arya watches for hours as the armored men come and go, as dinner is prepared and as night falls, but she does not see an opportunity to free Gendry. Late at night, she returns to the others to insist Hot Pie help her free Gendry. Hot Pie insists they cannot fight 20 soldiers, but Arya argues they will only have to kill the 2 guards at the storehouse. Lamy suggests they should yield or just leave Gendry, but Arya points out they need his help to help carry Lamy. When Arya insists she's going back to try, Hot Pie reluctantly agrees to come along. As they're crawling along under the gibbet, a crow lands on Hot Pie's back and the guards hear his gasp. Hot Pie immediately leaps up and shouts out that he yields. By the time Arya bounces up and draws Needle, they're surrounded. She slashes at the nearest man, but he blocks her with a steel-clad arm, and someone else knocks her to the ground. A third man wrenches Needle away and punches her with an armored fist when she tries to bite him. Disoriented, Arya lies hurting and shamed by the loss of Needle, which Jon Snow gave her as Syrio Forel taught her to use. When she's yanked to her knees, Arya finds herself facing the biggest man she's ever seen, and suddenly she remembers the banner with the 3 dogs at the hand's tourney. Sansa told her it was the banner of the Hound's brother, Sir Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides, who is even bigger than Hodor. After Hot Pie yields some more and tells him about Lamy and Weasel, Sir Gregor orders them to lead his men there and walks off. As they walk back to where Lamy and Weasel are hiding, Hot Pie promises to make pies and tarts for the soldiers if they don't hurt him. When they arrive, Lamy immediately yields and explains that Weasel ran off when she heard them coming. The soldiers ask Lamy where they can find Beric Dondarrion, but Lamy has never heard the name. One of the guards declares it's a waste of time since Arya's group did not know any more than the villagers. A spearman drifts over to Lamy and asks if he can walk. When Lamy says they'll have to carry him, the spearman replies, "Think so?" and casually drives his spear through Lamy's soft throat.
That's a rough scene. That is
Yeah.
so rough.
Yeah.
Poor one out for poor Lamy.
Yeah.
The one who wanted to yield every 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. So naive.
Yeah.
That's a rough part even in the show when that
Yeah.
part happens. You know, it's they think they don't it goes to show you how even the common folk, no one understands what war is really like until they're in it.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, oh, if we yield, they'll take us prisoner. Well, right now it's about no prisoners. It's about just destruction in the Riverlands, you know?
But they were just under attack. Like
Right.
I don't know how there's still hope that there would be an opportunity for surrender. The only 2 people that they've seemingly wanted alive were Gendry and Arya.
Right.
No one else matters.
Right. And it's funny because you would think you see Lannister and you've heard about the Lannisters your whole life. You would think they would be honorable, and there's nobody really. I mean, you know, Robb, he's honorable.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, who is, I guess Stannis is honorable.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean their men's going to be honorable and their groups, you know, not being under the direct control of anybody. I mean, you got the Mountain and his men, you know, that's pretty bad. And who was the, I always screw up his name. Who's the guy who was at the beginning that they were trying to get away from?
I forgot.
Sir Emery Lorch, is it? Or
Lorch. Yeah, Lorch.
Yeah, he's one of the worst, you know? So it's like, which one do you go to? Dead or deader? You know, like it's not cool at all. It sucks.
Yeah.
And
It also
gets to
shows
their-
that if you're useless, they'll just kill you.
Yeah.
Even if you're a child, and
Yep.
and they're for all they know, these are peasant children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hot Pie didn't recognize that because his whole thing was he wasn't just yielding. He was like, I can also help by baking things.
Right.
I have a skill.
Yep.
So it
And
could be
you don't have to
useful.
carry me. That's really what Lami's issue was. He could not walk.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, if Lami could walk, they probably wouldn't have killed him. But he had the cojones to say, you know, like, oh, I'm going to need your help. And they're like, okay, we'll help you with a spear through the throat.
Yeah.
How horrible is that? Like, you're not just putting it through his heart, killing him quick. You're putting it through his throat.
Right.
Like, the kid's going to choke to death. Oh, crazy. Yeah. Lorch in the mountain. Now, were they the two that killed Rhaegar's wife and kids? Was it Lorch in the mountain that did it?
Well, the mountain for sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it was two of them, and I'm pretty sure it was Lorch too. He's horrible. Like they don't have him in the show for some reason, but he's kind of played by different characters. Yes, Shane's saying yes. Okay. Oh yeah, he said it right there.
Which is terrible.
Yep. Lorch is nasty. Roger Haynes, what is up, my man? With a super sticker. I'm betting it's the thumbs up. I can't see it right now, but thank you, sir. As always, dropping in and giving a super sticker. Appreciate that, my friend. Yeah, it starts out, you know, and it's really sad thinking about, you know, Yoren, you know, like he can't be dead. Like in her mind, she's thinking he can't be dead.
Yeah.
And it, you know, and it looked like he went out battling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Went out like a badass, but
I mean, he was surrounded by enemy dead, so
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly. You know, he fought to the death.
he had a good, honorable death. But yeah, I was sad. I was strangely actually very moved when Arya was like looking for him and all that, and it just reminded me of what a little girl she still is. I guess I've got biased by some of the stuff in the TV show, but she's just a baby, and he was maybe their last adult figure.
Yeah.
For them, the idea that would protect them, and it was, oh boy.
Let's just put it this way: if she's 8, that's a year older than my oldest daughter. I couldn't imagine her doing anything even close to this.
No,
Not
babies.
even close. Not even pulling out a sword trying to defend herself. She'd be lost. You know, like I know they grow up differently in a medieval world, but still,
Yeah, they're playing
8 years
with
old is
dolls.
8 years old.
And the only
Yeah,
reason
right.
she even had that was because she kind of grew up wanting to be sort of like a soldier. But
Right.
Yeah.
It's the other thing too I noticed throughout the chapter is that the kids, these are kids, are constantly referring to what the adults taught them to try to survive. They're not doing
Right.
it quite well, but they remember the lessons. So they're trying to fish and they're trying to do this and trying to do that. And it's just not working because they're kids.
They're children. Yeah.
Yeah.
They suck.
Right. And she keeps going back to her lessons, which, you know, like repeatedly, you know, she keeps trying to remember what she was taught from, you know, her water dancing lessons and all this other stuff, you know, and I couldn't, like, I try to put myself in their place. Terrifying is the only thing I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You would hope an adult would help you, and you're learning that war is just cruel and bloody and smelly and just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these dead corpses where she couldn't even tell if they were people anymore. And she's looking at each one to remember them. Like that's going to change you fundamentally as a child.
Yes.
You know, even though the show after a certain point has nothing to do with the books, you could see why she turns into what she does in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy. What else was there?
It is.
Oh, and they, you know, Gendry points out that she's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He knew.
Yeah.
And I was struck by how horrified he was when he found out that she was a lady. It also shows how the class system is.
Mm-hmm.
He was genuinely horrified because he was taught, oh my gosh, this is a lady. And I've been peeing in front of her and I just told her to take out her cock.
Right.
You know, and he was like begging forgiveness. And then they did a bit of a flashback where he said all he knew about ladies was every time he was taught that if a lady comes in, you don't look at her, you bow down, and
Right.
it's something just so inaccessible. And even this little 8-year-old girl, when he heard she was a lady, how he reacted.
Right. And which will get her killed or worse,
Yeah.
captured if he keeps doing that.
Yeah.
You know, so one of her biggest fears is coming true. Can she trust him?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then he gets captured, thrown in there. She hears crying and yelling and doesn't know what's going on, but she sits there and waiting, like trying to figure out how to save him, which I think is so badass.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, that was so freaking epic.
Yep. She is a badass, man. Like so much more badass in the books than she is in the show, you know, like, because again, you know, she's 8, 9, maybe 9.5 towards the last book we had.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do any spoilers, but if you read like the sample chapter and from A Winds of Winter, like to think this is the same child, holy crap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's insane. But this is the beginning of that journey to be what she planned. You know, this world is going to make her.
Yeah. But in speaking of the horrors of war and the way things are, she was thinking from her point of view that she was told that she could be raped.
Right.
And then I was thinking, damn, they're right. You know, that they would rape a child.
Yeah.
You know, just how brutal that is.
You know, and her best bet is to be thought of as a little boy, even though that can't save you all the time.
Yeah.
That could be you know, there's those type of people out there too. It's an ugly world they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a depressing chapter. I think a lot of the Arya chapters in this book are depressing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say
the most
that.
brutal ones.
Yeah.
She's being forged into what she's going to become. Like you said before,
Yep.
we're seeing that take shape.
Yeah. And this is only the beginning, people. Keep an eye on her. Let's see. Shane says, apparently George's wife, Paris, Arya is her favorite character. Yeah, I've heard that too. I actually heard that recently. That's pretty funny that you said that, because somebody recent said that he doesn't believe Arya will make it through. And someone brought that up, that his wife, Paris, this is her favorite. So you would think Arya is just on a great journey. Yeah, the next
his wife needs to really push him to finish.
Yes.
We need to get her on board.
Yeah, I'm with you too.
Like, you're sleeping on the couch until you finish The Winds of Winter.
Exactly.
No, he's staying in the cabin. You're not coming home.
No.
Oh, there we are.
You stay where you're supposed to be. What up, Happy Dinosaur? 9,000 now. I thought it was 8,000.
It was 8,000. I don't know why it's 9,000, but it's 9,000.
Well, congratulations, I guess. Yeah, oh man, he needs to finish these books. I need something new to read. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah.
But rereading these chapters make me even more hungry for it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Oh, Shane is saying he isn't allowed to kill her, apparently, because of his wife. Happy Dinosaur said he evolved. Okay. That's great.
I kind of saw her. I mean, even from the beginning, though, I kind of saw her surviving. I hope she does.
But by golly, I do not want her to be Arya the Explorer. Thank you very much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The thing is, you know, if you
hate it.
Yeah. I like it in the books more than I do what they did to her in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say, if you look at his original plot line for the so-called trilogy he was doing, Arya, Jon, Tyrion, those are the three main characters. You know, Dany, I guess, is important too, but it's really Jon, Arya, and Tyrion. So keep an eye on those three to make it to the end. That's what I think.
I want her to be a wolf at the end, but I don't mind if she becomes a traveler.
Right.
I think that's her spirit. It's just to be wild, one way or the other.
Right. So you're saying as a person or as a second life in a direwolf.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. The author Stephen Walton up in the chat on a Monday night. Cray. What's up, brother?
Hola.
Hola. And while you're here, please smash that like button and leave once this stream is over, everybody. the algorithm loves comments on people's videos, and I like to see how that works. So come back after you're done and just comment when this is, done.
Yep.
When we're done and over with. I'd love to see that. All right. Anything else on the Arya chapter? That was a good one.
I think that's it.
All right. Next is a really good Tyrion chapter.
Oh.
And whenever you are ready.
Okay, I'm a bad girl. I didn't have it queued up. Is it you have it in the, you have it in the description, right? It's pinned? Or maybe not.
No, I just go to Westeros.org, put Clash of Kings summary chapter 20 and it'll come right up.
Okay.
When you're looking for something.
Yeah, I was too busy chatting with y'all. Chapter 20.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Clash of Kings. Chapter 20. Wait, schmoop. What the? Let me see. Oh, Westeros. Westeros.org. Okay, here we go, kids.
All right.
Clash Kings Chapter 20. Tyrion visits the Guild Hall of the Alchemists to discuss the production of wildfire, then meets Sir Cleos Frey about Robb Stark's peace terms. On the way back to the Red Keep, Tyrion passes a prophet preaching of corruption and incest. When he finds Cersei waiting in his solar, the pair argue about strategies. And sugar! I read the wrong part. Okay, all right. Tyrion is glad he took the advice to dress warmly, the more detailed, despite looking like a ball of stripped fur bundled up in his shadow skin cloak. Deep underneath Rennis Hall, the chill in the dark vaults behind the Guild Hall of the Alchemists is so bone deep that even Timothy retreated after a brief taste. By the light of a sealed lamp, Tyrion inspects a fragile, grapefruit-shaped clay jar. The jar has a pebbled texture to keep it from slipping when grasped, and when Tyrion tilts it to peer inside, the murky green wildfire oozes toward the tip. When Tyrion remarks on its thickness, the pallid and obscuous with this, pyromancer Hylane explains that the substance, as the pyromancers call it, flows more easily as it warms. Tyrion is annoyed by the alchemist's pretentiousness. Their habits of calling each other wisdom and hinting at vast stores of secret knowledge do not match the reality of a declining guild in moth-eaten robes who no longer even pretend to transmute metals. The Meisters of the Citadel have supplanted the once powerful guild in almost every respect, except the creation of wildfire, which remains a closely guarded guild secret. Hylane explains that once kindled, wildfire cannot be quenched and will seep into cloth, wood, leather, or even steel, and set them afire as well. Tyrion recalls from the flaming sword of Thoros of Myr that even a thin coating can burn for an hour, though it ruins the sword. When Tyrion asks why the wildfire doesn't seep into the clay pots, Hylane explains that it does, and thus they have a lower vault full of pots from the reign of King Aerys Targaryen, whose fancy it was to shape the jars like fruit. By rights, those jars should be destroyed, but so many of the guild's masters were killed during the sack of King's Landing that they lack the skill and have flooded the vaults instead. Hylane adds that the whereabouts of much of King Aerys' stock was also lost, such as a cache of 200 jars discovered only last year under the Great Sept of Baelor. Hylane admits this older stock can still be used, but urges extreme caution, since wildfire grows more volatile with age and will self-ignite if left in even direct sunlight for too long, causing it to expand violently and create a chain reaction among nearby jars. When Tyrion asks how many jars they have, Hylane quotes the morning's count by Wisdom Moonsighter as 7,840 jars, including 4,000 from King Aerys' older stock, and says he is confident the guild will meet its promise of 10,000 jars. Tyrion is astonished, delighted, and terrified. He knows creating wildfire is a lengthy and dangerous process, and thought the number was only a wild boast. He insists he does not want any undue haste or defective wildfire, that Helaine assures him the wildfire is prepared only by the trained acolytes in work cells designed to fill with sand and smother any fires, and the hapless acolyte. Tyrion is interested in expecting how such a cell would work, but he does not have time. Helaine reiterates the importance of handling wildfire with care, suggesting that common soldiers in the frenzy of battle may not be so considerate as trained pyromancers, and any little mistake could be catastrophic. In response, Tyrion requests as many spare jars as possible to be delivered to each of the city gates. As they walk back, Helaine stresses the honor of welcoming the Hand of the King for the first time since Lord Rosart, who was their guild himself. The mention of Rosart reminds Tyrion of the stories of the Mad King Aerys II using the alchemist to burn his enemies, and he decides it would be best to keep Joffrey well away from the pyromancers to prevent him from getting the same idea. As such, when Helaine proposes hosting a feast for Joffrey, Tyrion explains that Joffrey has forbidden feasting at Tyrion's insistence until the war is won. However, Tyrion has no objections when Helaine instead proposes a demonstration of the dread secrets of the ancient order at the Red Keep. There is no harm in a few magic tricks. After navigating the twists and turns of the guild hall, they come to the long and echoing Gallery of the Iron Torches, where columns of wildfire flames burn around black metal columns and reflect off the black marble walls to bathe the hall in emerald light. However, Tyrion is less impressed because he knows the cost of wildfire means the torches have been lit only to impress him. After bidding farewell to Helaine on the doorstep, Tyrion descends the broad steps to the Street of Sisters near Visenia's Hill, where Timett waits with his litter and an escort of burned men. A most appropriate escort for a visit to the pyromancers and a necessary precaution, since Joffrey rained arrows on a hungry mob at the gates of the Red Keep only 3 days past. Tyrion is surprised to find Bronn awaiting as well. With 2 messages, Sir Jacelyn Bywater urgently requires Tyrion at the Gate of the Gods, and Cersei commands him to attend her in her chambers. Tyrion decides to see Bywater first, as the man is not prone to waste his time, and forcing Cersei to wait will make her angry and stupid, which he prefers to composed and cunning. The normally busy food market inside the Gates of the Gods is nearly deserted as Tyrion crosses it to meet Sir Jacelyn, who informs him that Sir Cleos Frey has arrived with peace terms from Robb Stark. Tyrion is pleased, but Cleos proves reluctant to discuss the terms since his orders are to deliver them directly to Cersei. Gaunt and haggard from his journey, Cleos describes the dire situation around the God's Eye and the King's Road, where the river lords are burning their own crops to starve the Lannisters, who are in turn torching every village and killing the small folk. Tyrion dismisses this as way of war, while Cleos adds that even with a peace banner, his party was attacked twice by broken men, losing 3 men and another 6 wounded. When Tyrion is amused by Robb's impossible peace terms, Cleos shares that Robb sits idle at Riverrun, likely afraid to face Lord Tywin in battle, and grows weaker as the river lords disperse to defend their lands. Tyrion wonders if that was his father's plan, then informs Cleos that the terms, including the exchange of William Lannister and Cleos's brother Tion Frey for Sansa and Arya Stark, are unacceptable, and Cleos will be expected to carry the small council's counter-offer back to Riverrun. Cleos is not pleased with the prospect of recrossing a war zone and points out that it is Catelyn Stark who wants this peace, not Robb. Tyrion counters that Catelyn wants her daughters and urges Cleos to rest and await further instructions. Tyrion rejoins Jacelyn Bywater, watching several hundred recruits drilling beyond the gate. With so many refugees, there is no lack of men joining the city watch for food and a bed, but Tyrion has no illusions about their worth in battle. He commends Bywater for contacting him and instructs him to give Sir Cleos and his escort every hospitality, but to keep them outside the city to hide the truth of conditions there. He also instructs Bywater to use the jars the alchemist will deliver to trained Spitfire crews to handle wildfire using paint and burning oil. Bywater calls this a wise measure, although he has no love for alchemist's piss. Tyrion agrees, but insists he must use what is given. Back in his litter, Tyrion reflects that if he can use negotiations to keep Robb dreaming of an easy peace at River Run until Sir Stafford Lannister readies his new host at Casterly Rock, then Stafford and Lord Tywin can smash Robb's forces between them. Tyrion only wishes the Baratheons would be as accommodating, with Renly creeping up the crossroad with his massive southern army and Stannis poised to sail his fleet up the Blackwater Rush any day. Tyrion takes small comfort from his stockpile of wildfire. A commotion in Cobbler's Square pulls Tyrion out of his musing. A sizable crowd listens to the ranting of a prophet garbed as a begging brother, calling the red comet in the sky above Aegon's high hill the father's scourge. He proclaims, "We have become swollen, bloated, foul. Brothers couple with sister in the beds of kings, and the fruit of their incest capers in his palace to the piping of a twisted little monkey demon. Highborn ladies fornicate with fools and give birth to monsters. Even the High Septon has forgotten the gods. He bathes in scented waters and grows fat on lark and lamprey while his people starve. Pride comes before prayer. Maggots rule our castles, and gold is all, but no more. The rotten summer is at an end." Gosh, this is cheery. "And the whoremonger king is brought low. When the boar did open him, a great stench rose to heaven, and 1,000 snakes slid forth from his belly, hissing and biting. There comes the harbinger. Cleanse yourself, the gods cry out, lest you be cleansed. Bathe in the wine of righteousness, or you shall be bathed in fire." Fire! Wounded by being called a twisted little monkey demon, Tyrion takes solace from the hoots of derision drowning the echoing shouts as he orders the burned man to clear a path. He agrees with the prophet about the High Septon, however, smiling at the memory of a joke Moonboy made at the gluttonous cleric's expense. Returning to the Red Carrot Keep without further incident, Tyrion ascends to his chambers in a hopeful mood, thinking all he needs is time to piece it all together. Entering his solar, he is confronted by Cersei, who is furious with him for ignoring her summons and plotting to sell her only daughter like a bag of oats. Knowing his ploy has worked, Tyrion points out that princesses like Myrcella are born for such marriage alliances, unless Cersei planned to wed her to her brother Tommen. Cersei declares she will not allow Myrcella to be shipped off to Dorne. Without missing a beat, Tyrion points out that Dorne will be much safer than King's Landing, and the feud between the Lannisters and House Martell goes back only a generation, whereas the Dornish men have warred with Storm's End and Highgarden for a millennium. Tyrion explains that he proposed 9-year-old Myrcella become the ward of Prince Doran Martell until she turns 14, at which time she will marry Trystane Martell, who is just 2 years older. Cersei insists Myrcella will be a hostage, but Tyrion opines that she will be treated more kindly than Sansa Stark, especially with Sir Aerys Oakheart of the Kingsguard as her sworn shield. Cersei still worries that Doran Martell might kill Myrcella to avenge the murder of his sister, Elia Martell. But Tyrion insists Doran is too honorable to murder an innocent girl, and the terms are too rich to refuse. He has also promised the prince his sister's killer, a council seat, and some castles on the Dornish marches. Cersei accuses Tyrion of offering too much without her consent, but he insists Doran would not accept less, and asks if Cersei means to offer sexual favors instead. When she slaps him, Tyrion promises it will be the last time. But Cersei only laughs and suggests Tyrion's faith that their father's letter will protect him might be as misguided as Eddard Stark's faith in King Robert's last will. Tyrion notes to himself that unlike Lord Eddard, he has the city watch, his clansmen, and a party of sellswords, though he supposes Stark had delusions of support as well. Rather than argue, Tyrion declares that Renly and Stannis will mount Myrcella's head beside Cersei's if they take the city. To his astonishment, Cersei begins to cry, something that Tyrion has not seen since they were children. Awkwardly, he moves to comfort her, but she wrenches away, which hurts more than any slap. He promises nothing will happen to Myrcella, but Cersei calls him a liar and declares he has not kept his promise to free Jaime. Tyrion assures her that Jaime remains safe at Riverrun until he can find a way to free him. Cersei laments that if she were a man, she would not have allowed any of this to happen. She wonders how Jaime could let himself be captured and questions what their father is doing in Harrenhal. Tyrion assures her Lord Tywin is making war, proposing that Tyrion is a lion waiting to pounce, while Robb is a fawn frozen by fear. Cersei is not convinced, pointing out that Jaime would not sit idle if their father were the prisoner. To himself, Tyrion agrees that Jaime never had any patience, but he only says that not everyone can be as bold as Jaime, but there are other ways to win a war, and Harrenhal is strong and well situated. Cersei adds that King's Landing is neither, and Renly's host will soon be at their gates. Tyrion assures her the city will not fall in a day, giving Lord Tywin's time to march down the King's Road to take Renly in the rear. Hungry for reassurance, Cersei asks what will happen if Robb Stark marches. Tyrion explains that Harrenhal prevents Roose Bolton from crossing the Trident to reunite the northern forces. And even if he could, Robb does not have the strength to take Harrenhal and march on King's Landing. Meanwhile, Lord Tywin's army lives on the fat of the Riverlands, and their uncle Stafford is raising another army at Casterly Rock. Wondering how Tyrion knows all this, Cersei asks if Lord Tywin confided in him. Tyrion replies that he only looked at a map, which causes Cersei to accuse him of mere speculation. Drawing out Robb's peace offer, Tyrion asks why Robb would offer terms, even unacceptable terms, if he were winning. Suddenly, all queen again, Cersei asks how the terms came to Tyrion instead of her, but Tyrion quips that his job as hand is to hand her things. As he hands her the letter, Tyrion muses that getting slapped by Cersei is a small price to pay for her agreement to the Dornish marriage, which he consents he will now get. The identity of an informer is just the plum in his pudding. Dun, dun, dun.
Wow, that was a long one. Holy cow,
Yeah.
good job. Good job. Toxic Man flew for $2. A song of sporks and small scissors. That jerk. Can't stay. Thanks, buddy.
Good one.
That is a chapter and a half. Like, there's so much going on there. So much going on there. So who would like to start?
The wildfire.
Yeah.
The wildfire, though, right?
It's just not a good idea.
Not at
It
all.
seems so bad.
Not at all.
And I'm surprised that Tyrion is not only going along with it, but is
Producing more.
producing more, spraying it out, with the different corners of the city.
Yeah,
What could possibly go wrong?
exactly. I love how the Pyromancy Guild was a bigger deal back when the Targaryens were around, and now they feel like they're, gaining again. I always liked that part of it, but what kills me is they don't even know where it all is.
Right?
They have no clue where it all is. I was going to bring that up, Shane. Is it Byzantine fire? I thought it was Greek fire. That's what wildfire is, but maybe it is Byzantine fire. But there is like an ancient fire that this is based on that we don't know how they created it, but it can burn in water. Like that's what wildfire really is representing. This stuff is volatile. Like if that goes off, the city is screwed.
Yeah. It's like having a whole bunch of nuclear bombs just laying around and being unstable.
You just don't know.
Yeah. And there's just, the old stuff. We really should get rid of that, but we still got it. It's only like 25 years old. And we're just finding it all over the city. We just found one under, like, this goes to show you how crazy Ares was. He had it set under like the sept, like the great sept of Baelor. Like he has it probably strategic in all these different places to take out his so-called threats, because he was nuts. It's everywhere, I would guess.
It's
everywhere.
crazy. But it also too goes back to the idea of the tunnels that you talk about a lot, being under everywhere.
Yeah.
Apparently, probably under the entirety of Westeros.
Again, I believe that. I believe tunnels go everywhere. I think if there was a cataclysm that causes the long night, they said generations in darkness. So they had generations to dig all these tunnels and to stay out of the, because when the winter comes, even in the north now, it's, 12 feet of snow is nothing. Like that's just the beginning
Yeah.
of winter. So imagine like generations worth of winters. You would start burying, going deep into the ground to try to stay warm. So
It's
yeah.
like in Quebec when they built their underground city.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, they in ancient times we're finding, in Turkey, I think it is, there's like an underground city, like miles worth of tunneling.
Oh yeah.
So definitely something that they've been doing. Yeah, definitely tunnels. Shane says, and new ones in King's Landing, which is only like 300 years old, which he's right. So this is going on even beyond that. Now imagine wildfire everywhere.
Yeah, you would think that a priority, I know it's war, so they don't have a whole lot of resources to waste, but you would think they would want to find, locate, plot out all of these caches.
Yeah. Maybe they don't have the resources, but I'd really tell this guild to slow down the process of creating new ones and find all the old ones.
Right.
Yeah, it's like they need to shift their priorities just a little bit.
Just a hair. Yeah. So the wildfire is crazy. There is a lot of it. And Tyrion is preparing, Tyrion, you see his intelligence through this whole chapter. Really, this book is his book.
It does, especially when he gets into the sort of military strategy conversation with Cersei.
Right.
But it still bothers me a little bit that his shortcut answer to dealing with forces is wildfire.
Right.
I mean, it's like a nuclear option, basically.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes me think he's a little bit Lannister crazy.
Yeah.
But then his conversation with Cersei is so amazing, how he is explaining to her the different movements and motivations of the different forces and what to expect.
Right.
It's really cool. I love that part of it.
Yeah. And when she asks him, he says, I looked at a map. That's like, like,
yeah. But I think that his willingness to use the wildfire also shows how much he really is worried about Stannis.
Yes. And his brother. He's worried about both of them.
Yeah.
You got Robb Stark in the north and both the Baratheon brothers not knowing what's going on with them coming up from the south. So yeah, they're definitely outmanned with their father on the other side of Westeros. Yep. So he's doing what he thinks needs to be done, which is again the nuclear option.
Almost literally.
Yeah. That's a really good one, Tina. You would think Pycelles would have some idea where the wildfire is hidden with all his spies. You would think he would, Varys would, Littlefinger would, but it's one of those things where the Pyromancer Guild fell so far. I think people just stopped thinking about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, if I even knew that stuff existed, I think I would move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the people don't know. Right?
Yeah.
No,
well, yeah.
They have no clue.
But the people that do, I would be like,
yeah, I'm out. I am out. I love how he's figuring out who he can trust, who he can't trust with the Marcella stuff and the different plans he had and who would tell who. He's a smart son. This is going back to that 1, 2, 3 from the last chapter, who is going to tell his secrets to? And I forgot, who did he tell this one to? Was this the one about Dorne? Was that no, not Littlefinger. It was either Pycelle or it was Varys he told this to. And I think it was Pycelle. I always screw up.
The Meister?
Yeah.
I think it was him too. Yeah.
Yep. So he knows he can't trust him right off the rip. Bam.
Yeah.
And sending his niece to Dorne, like he's trying to explain this is a good idea.
Yep.
But the Dornish, they may not kill kids, but they are, I mean, if you look at their history, they are vicious when they are under attack or they feel a slight. So I can understand why Cersei feels the way she does.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I mean, she's right. He's right. That's what girls like that's what Marcella is made for.
Exactly. her role is to unite, warring empires.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
The good
her
old
marriage
days.
can do that.
Yeah.
Them good old days.
And also, you want to get. I mean, you have this impending war.
Mhm.
It's coming to your doorstep. You really shouldn't have all the royals in one place.
No, and
As a
that's
practical
smart.
matter.
Right. If she's in the city and it gets under attack, they're killing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They're going to wipe out that Baratheon line. So, yeah, it is smarter for him to separate them.
Yeah. Well, and also clever to offer the killer of Elia Martell.
Right.
Elia or whatever. Yeah. Because he knows that that's what they really want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We all, yeah. Oh, yeah, that hasn't even happened yet. Oh, God, what a good book. We got so much more to go. The Dornish is an interesting plot, which I can't wait till we get deeper into because there's so much going on with Dorn. Doran Martell, we're just starting to learn about him. Very smart man, very calculated man. But if he says he's going to keep her safe, he'll keep her safe.
Yeah.
So I understand why Tyrion believes him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something almost like it's like a war treaty almost when you make those kind of agreements to marry.
Right.
Yeah.
Trystane and Marcella, though, Dorne has always been the one of the Seven Kingdom that has it took them the longest to become part of the Westeros Seven Kingdom, if you want to say. And it wasn't until recent, and it took marriage. It wasn't war. It took marrying into the royal family for them to accept King's Landing as the ruling kingdom.
Yep.
Shane wants to let you know, good point, Jane. Normally Dragonstone would be an option, but not now. Right. You can't hide in Dragonstone. Like, you need to separate them far. I think that's very valid. I'm trying to think what else. That was such a long summary. I'm trying to remember what else happened. There was so much.
See Cersei being human for a change.
Yeah, crying.
Briefly.
Or was she?
I think she was. When she started talking about her daughter and losing her, I think that was genuine.
I don't know. They make her a better mother in the show than she really is in the books. Like, I guess so. I almost think it's strategic, but okay.
Really?
Yeah, I don't trust her at all.
Well, the reason why I believe that she was being genuine is because she let Tyrion talk a lot.
Yeah.
And she asked a lot of questions for reassurance.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a valid point.
So.
Well, and also the strain and stress she's under from Jaime being gone. That's also messing her up because he really is the one she really loves. And so she's cracking.
Yeah. That's something she does. Yeah. That's something she does. Now, he also talked to who? So he left in the litter. Who was the one in the middle that he talked to?
Well, he went to the guy with the troops, and that's when they saw the prophet preacher guy.
Oh, right. The prophets. Okay, perfect. So now there's war. So everybody's coming to the city, and now you're getting all these people like, preaching the doomsday type thing, which I found interesting too. And talking about the incest, talking about how it's going to bring them down, and then blaming the poor monkey man.
Yeah. Well, it also shows, I guess, everyone knows about the incest then.
Right.
The worst kept secret ever.
It really is. Tina, that's awesome. That, you know what? Maybe that's it even more. She relates to what's going on. Her daughter being married off to, help, ending a war. I think that's actually, she sees herself in that. That's a valid point. Yeah, I think the prophets, that's just a taste of what's happening in this city where you have, when war happens, people become fundamentally more religious, not spiritual, but religious. They want to follow somebody. And you're starting to see that in the city.
Yeah.
And the supernatural element with the comment
Mm-hmm.
is also sort of adding to that, because they
Yep.
feel that this is something that doesn't typically happen. You have this
Yeah.
once in a lifetime environmental event, what do you want to call it?
Yeah.
And then the outbreak of war everywhere. All
And
over
it's
the
a
continent.
red comet too. I mean,
Right.
that is just a bad omen for small folk thinking about it. That's a bad omen.
Yeah.
And they associate it with fire.
Yep.
Yeah. And sometimes when crap just hits the fan and big old wars and all that, historically, it's been oddly comforting, perhaps, for people to try to explain it by saying God's punishing them.
Yes.
Because you have to make sense of why something terrible is happening.
Right. Look at the plague. Look at, the Black Death. People become more religious.
Yeah.
They follow somebody.
Yeah. It was a punishment, because that's something you can understand rather than just face the fact that life sucks and there's no meaning to it.
Yep. Shane, look at Soviet Union. Exactly. After 20 years of not having a religion, they opened it up because.
Or I think another way to look at it too is that, life doesn't really have a whole lot of meaning until it starts to disappear around you.
Yeah.
When you realize how fragile it is.
Yeah. When the good times, you don't think about that stuff. That's true. God, George, finish these books. They're so good.
They are.
So good. Oh, such an anti-war story that has the best war in it ever. It's so good.
Well, and what I like too is he doesn't ever preach.
Nope.
He lets the story speak for itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate they called his gardening approach at writing, where he doesn't have he has an outline, but not a set outline. And if something he nurtures grows into a different path, he takes that path. Mm-hmm. And you see that as this story goes on, we'll notice he'll go down one and just stop, and you won't even know what happened. What happened to that storyline? He just stops talking about it and goes somewhere else. That could be frustrating at times. But this right here, this book is one of the better of the saga because of everything that's preparing for these wars to come.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of his writing style too, it's almost as if he's created such a realistic universe that it's almost as if he can put himself in it and just write what he's seeing happen.
Yeah.
That's how it feels reading it.
It's real events and he's recording it as a historian.
Right.
And that's how he writes it. That's how he writes his history books. He writes it as a maester. Gildane, I think, wrote The World of Ice and Fire. He writes it from the point of view of a maester, and he takes into who am I writing this for? Okay, so this is for Joffrey Baratheon. So I'm gonna make the Targaryens look a little worse and the Baratheons look a little better. It's so interesting how he does his writing. It's perfect. It's the best I've ever read. Definitely in this fantasy genre. What else? Anything else, guys? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I guess maybe it's not a huge deal. Just where they were talking about the peasants, I guess, that in exchange for food joined the troops.
Yeah. And they were working out the new troops to get, and that reminds me. Okay, so you go back to that Sansa chapter. It made me think of that. They were planning a wedding feast for one of the Lannisters who's a teenager marrying a baby from the Crown Lands. I forgot about that. We didn't even bring that up. These marriage pacts that it doesn't even matter if you're an infant, they will marry you off. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but that is really important. These soldiers wanting just to have food.
And just reminding us that things aren't so well in King's Landing outside of the royal family.
And Shane puts it good. The small point, the new soldiers in the guard are not reliable. All they want to do is eat.
Right.
Yeah. not only not reliable, but just by their very nature, also perhaps not good soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just hungry people.
Yeah.
And it's baby Lady Hayford. And they're from the Crownlands, I believe. So it's a house in the Crown, without a male heir. So they're marrying a Lannister into this family to pretty much just take it over. Strategic, very strategic. The Lannisters, they found their opportunity. They went with it, man. They're trying to take over Westeros.
And they are.
They are. And we'll see how it goes next week when we read our next 3 chapters. And I don't know who that is, right? Yeah. Same bat time, right?
Same bat channel.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Jayne, let them know where you are.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube where I post movie and television reviews and some pop culture commentary. You can also find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at Jayne Theory.
Twitch now, huh? Nice.
Yeah.
All right. And Miss Martin Muses.
Hi, you can find me at Miss Martin Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Currently, apparently, French cheese is very popular. It's one of my most viewed videos ever. It broke 1,000.
Wow.
So, I know. I couldn't believe it.
French cheese.
Yeah, you do things for years, and then you decide, I'm going to throw some French cheese out there. It even started as a joke when I was on Ryan's channel, because he didn't know what cheese he even ate. And I was like, how dare you? And I was like, don't you know about the great cheeses? So I told him I would dedicate this thing about French cheese. So if you want to see some French cheese, head over to Miss Martin Muses. Let's make it up to 2,000.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and find me on Twitter, Teresa2_Martin.
Definitely. That's awesome.
It is.
Guys, make sure you check my Twitter page too. There's a couple charities coming up. Tomorrow, Paulie from Latino Slant is involved in a charity. I'm trying to find it as we speak. I want to say it's for dogs, right? It's the Animal Lovers. This Tuesday, we will hold a live fundraiser for Scars, it's called.
Oh.
So it's a local animal rescue squad. Definitely check that out on my YouTube channel or my Twitter, or go to @Latino _slant and check out Paulie's Twitter page. And then you also make sure Wednesday there will be no episode of The Dump, because Drunk 3PO is doing a charity also stream for human trafficking and things of that nature. So let's make sure we support that. That's a real important one. But thank you guys, everybody, for coming out tonight. We had a really good time, and we'll see you guys next Monday for another Song of Ice and Fire Clash of Kings book club. I couldn't think of how to end that one. Have a great night, everybody. Peace out. Oh, wait a minute. I got to say my thank you. Thank you to Tina Bojan, Who Knew, Jack D, and Toxic Man Flu, my Littlefinger members. And this one is to all my other members. I got to add shit and cheese. Sorry.